In the dusty plains of 1870s Wyoming, where lawlessness reigned, a woman named Eliza Kane rode into Redstone. Her badge gleamed under the sun, a deputy's star pinned to her vest. Her rifle, slung across her back, was as much a part of her as her steely resolve. The townsfolk whispered of her arrival, unsure if she was salvation or trouble. Eliza's eyes scanned the horizon, ready for both. Redstone was a den of outlaws, with saloons spilling over with card cheats and gunslingers. The sheriff had been gunned down weeks prior, leaving chaos in his wake. Eliza, barely 25, stepped into the role. Her father, a lawman, had taught her to shoot straight and stand tall. She'd need both skills here. Her first night, she faced jeers in the saloon but silenced them with a single, cold stare. The townsfolk were skeptical. A woman deputy? Unheard of. But Eliza wasn't here to please them. Her first task was a cattle rustler, Black Jack Tate, hiding in the hills. She saddled her mare, checked her rifle, and rode out alone. The wind carried warnings of Tate's gang, but Eliza's heart didn't waver. She'd faced worse odds as a girl, hunting with her pa in the Montana wilderness. At dusk, she found Tate's camp. 4 men, armed and drunk, laughed by a fire. Eliza crouched behind a boulder, her rifle steady. She called out, demanding their surrender. Laughter turned to gunfire. Bullets whizzed past, but Eliza's shots were true. 2 men fell, the others fled. Tate, cursing, raised his hands. By dawn, she marched him into Redstone, proving her badge wasn't just for show. Word of Eliza's feat spread fast. The townsfolk's doubts began to fade, but the outlaws grew bolder. The Mason gang, led by ruthless Caleb Mason, planned to rob Redstone's bank. Eliza overheard their plot in a saloon, her ear pressed to a thin wall. She didn't flinch. Instead, she rallied a handful of brave locals, mostly shopkeepers and farmers, to set a trap. Her plan was risky but precise. The night of the robbery, Eliza hid in the bank's shadows, rifle ready. The gang stormed in, only to find barrels of flour rigged to explode in clouds of dust. Blinded, they stumbled as Eliza and her posse struck. Gunfire echoed, but her aim was surgical. Caleb Mason fell, wounded but alive. The gang was shackled by sunrise, and Redstone cheered their new deputy, a woman who'd outsmarted the worst. Eliza's legend grew, but so did her enemies. A bounty was placed on her head by a cattle baron, Silas Reed, who hated her interference with his illegal deals. Silas sent hired guns to ambush her on a lonely trail. Eliza sensed the trap, her instincts honed by years of survival. She dismounted, took cover, and picked off the attackers one by one. Silas's men fled, leaving his plans in tatters. Redstone began to change under Eliza's watch. Saloons quieted, and families felt safe. She trained a deputy, young Tom Harper, who idolized her grit. Together, they patrolled the streets, her rifle a symbol of order. But Eliza never softened. She knew the West was wild, and peace was fragile. At night, she cleaned her gun by lamplight, her thoughts on the next fight, her badge heavy with duty. One winter, a blizzard trapped Redstone, and supplies ran low. Bandits saw their chance, raiding farms on the outskirts. Eliza led a posse through the snow, her breath visible in the freezing air. They tracked the raiders to a canyon, where a shootout left 2 bandits dead and the rest captured. Eliza's hands were steady, even as frost bit her fingers. She brought the stolen goods back to town. The townsfolk now called her Sheriff Kane, though her title was still deputy. They trusted her to face any threat. When a stagecoach was hijacked, Eliza rode out alone, tracking the thieves across the desert. Her rifle downed the leader. From 200 yards, a shot that became legend. She returned the stolen gold to Redstone, her face unreadable. For Eliza, it was just another day's work. But Eliza wasn't invincible. A fever swept Redstone, and she fell ill while tending to the sick. For days, she lay weak, her badge on the bedside table. Tom took over patrols, using her lessons to keep order. When she recovered, the town greeted her with relief. Eliza, embarrassed by the fuss, pinned her badge back on and returned to work, her rifle slung over her shoulder as always. The railroad came to Redstone, bringing new faces, and new troubles. Gamblers and conmen flooded the town, testing Eliza's resolve. She broke up fights, jailed swindlers, and faced down a duel with a cocky drifter. Her rifle stayed holstered that day, her words were enough to send him packing. The townsfolk marveled at her restraint, but Eliza knew when to shoot and when to talk. Silas Reed, still bitter, hired a notorious gunslinger, Rattlesnake, Cole, to kill Eliza. Cole challenged her in Redstone Square, his hand twitching near his pistol. The town held its breath. Eliza's eyes locked on his, unflinching. At the draw, her shot was faster, grazing Cole's arm. He dropped his gun, defeated. Eliza let him live, a warning to others. Silas's power waned as his hired gun rode away. Eliza's reputation reached beyond Redstone. Newspapers called her the Iron Deputy, a woman who tamed the Wild West. She scoffed at the name but kept every clipping. Her rifle, weathered but reliable, hung above her desk. At night, she wrote letters to her sister in Boston, describing the West's beauty and danger. She never mentioned fear, it wasn't in her nature to admit it. A new threat emerged, a gang of ex-Confederates turned outlaws, led by Amos Kane, no relation, but a cruel irony. They burned ranches, seeking revenge on Union towns like Redstone. Eliza tracked them to a ghost town, her rifle loaded. In a tense standoff, she outwitted Amos, using his temper against him. His gang scattered, and Amos was jailed. Eliza's badge shone brighter than ever. Redstone's mayor offered Eliza the sheriff's job, but she declined. "Deputy's fine," she said, her voice firm. She didn't need titles, the work was enough. She trained more locals, building a stronger posse. Her rifle was rarely fired now, her presence alone deterred trouble. But she kept it oiled, knowing the West could turn wild in a heartbeat. Eliza was always ready for that moment. One spring, a flood hit Redstone, washing out homes. Eliza led the rescue, wading through icy water to save a trapped family. Her badge was soaked, her rifle useless in the mud, but her grit shone through. She organized rebuilding, her voice rallying the town. By summer, Redstone stood stronger, and Eliza's name was etched in their hearts. She shrugged off praise, cleaning her gun as always. Trouble brewed again when a mining company tried to strong-arm Redstone's farmers for land. Eliza faced the company's hired thugs, her rifle at her side. She didn't fire a shot, but her words, sharp and unyielding, sent them packing. The farmers kept their land, and Eliza's legend grew. She was more than a deputy now, she was Redstone's protector, a woman who bent the West to her will. Eliza's past caught up one day. A man claiming to be her brother, long lost to the frontier, arrived in Redstone. His story was shaky, his eyes shifty. Eliza didn't trust him. When he tried to rob the saloon, she confronted him, rifle in hand. He fled, unable to face her. The town saw her pain but respected her silence. Eliza pinned her badge tighter, her resolve unshaken by personal ghosts. The years wore on, but Eliza didn't slow. She broke up a train robbery, her rifle's crack echoing through the hills. She saved a child from a runaway horse, diving into danger without a thought. Redstone's children now played, Deputy Eliza, mimicking her stance. She smiled at their games but never let her guard down. The West was quieter, but its wild heart still beat, and she knew it. A federal marshal visited Redstone, offering Eliza a job in Denver. She refused. Redstone was her home, its people her family. Her badge, dented but proud, stayed pinned to her vest. Her rifle, scratched from years of use, remained her constant companion. The marshal left, impressed by her loyalty. Eliza rode out to patrol, the sunset painting the plains gold around her. One night, a fire swept through Redstone's stables. Eliza ran toward the flames, freeing horses as smoke choked her lungs. Her badge gleamed in the firelight, her rifle forgotten in the chaos. She saved every animal, collapsing afterward, coughing but alive. The townsfolk rebuilt the stables, carving her name into the beam. Eliza waved it off, but her heart swelled at their love. The Mason gang's remnants tried one last score, targeting a payroll wagon. Eliza, tipped off by a barmaid, ambushed them at a pass. Her rifle spat fire, and the gang scattered. She recovered the payroll, returning it to the miners. Redstone threw a dance in her honor, but Eliza stood at the edge, her eyes scanning the crowd. Even in celebration, she was Redstone's guardian. A young woman, inspired by Eliza, asked to be her deputy. Eliza hesitated, then agreed. She taught Clara how to shoot, ride, and read a man's intentions. Clara's first arrest, a drunk rustler, made Eliza proud. She saw herself in Clara's grit. Her badge felt lighter, knowing the next generation would carry on. Her rifle, though, stayed close. The West wasn't fully tamed yet. Silas Reed made a final play, bribing a judge to frame Eliza for theft. She faced a trial, her badge at stake. The townsfolk testified to her honor, their voices drowning out lies. Eliza stood tall, her rifle propped in the courtroom corner. The judge cleared her, and Silas fled town, ruined. Eliza pinned her badge back on, her eyes daring anyone to challenge her again. The railroad brought a photographer to Redstone, eager to capture Eliza's image. She posed reluctantly, badge gleaming, rifle in hand. The photo spread across the West, a symbol of law in a lawless land. Eliza hated the fame but kept the picture, tucked in her journal. At night, she wrote of Redstone's growth, her words plain but proud. The West was changing, and she'd helped shape it. A smallpox outbreak tested Redstone again. Eliza rode to fetch a doctor, braving bandit trails. Her rifle kept her safe, her badge her authority to demand help. She returned with medicine, saving dozens. The doctor called her a hero, Eliza called it duty. She cleaned her rifle at night, her hands steady despite exhaustion. Redstone's survival was her reward, worth more than any praise. Eliza faced her toughest foe yet, a gang led by Bloody Kate, a woman as fierce as she. They clashed in a canyon, rifles blazing. Kate's taunts echoed, but Eliza's shots were deadlier. Kate surrendered, respecting Eliza's skill. In jail, Kate admitted she'd wanted to test the Iron Deputy. Eliza nodded, understanding the need to prove oneself. Her badge gleamed as she locked the cell. Redstone's schoolhouse opened, and Eliza was there, her rifle at home for once. She listened to children read, her badge catching their eyes. A girl asked if she could be a deputy someday. Eliza smiled, saying, "If you've got grit, you can be anything." The words felt true, born from her own battles. She left the schoolhouse, her heart lighter, knowing she'd inspired a new dream. The governor visited, offering Eliza a medal. She accepted it quietly, pinning it beside her badge. The ceremony was brief. Eliza disliked crowds. She rode out afterward, rifle across her back, checking the hills for trouble. The West was calmer now, but she trusted her instincts. Redstone thrived because of her, a fact she never voiced but carried in her steady gaze. A drifter brought news of a new gang forming in the next county. Eliza saddled up, her badge polished, her rifle loaded. Tom and Clara joined her, their trust in her absolute. They rode into the night, a trio bound by duty. Eliza's heart beat steady, this was her life. The West was her proving ground, and she'd face any challenge with her badge and rifle, as she always had. The gang was no match for Eliza's posse. In a swift raid, they captured the outlaws, her rifle's aim as true as ever. Redstone celebrated their return, but Eliza slipped away, cleaning her gun by lantern light. Her badge lay on the table, a symbol of her oath. She didn't need thanks, the quiet of a safe town was enough. The West was wild, but she'd carved out peace, one fight at a time. Years later, Eliza's hair grayed, but her eyes stayed sharp. She still patrolled, rifle in hand, badge on her chest. Redstone had grown, with a new sheriff, Clara, now seasoned. Eliza stepped back, advising from the sidelines. She taught kids to shoot, her stories captivating them. The West had changed, but her legend endured, etched in the town she'd tamed with grit and steel. One evening, Eliza sat on her porch, rifle across her lap, badge glinting in the sunset. Redstone was peaceful, its streets bustling with life. She thought of her father, her first teacher, and the long road she'd traveled. The West had tested her, but she'd won. Her journal, filled with her deeds, lay closed. She didn't need to read it, she'd lived it. The badge and rifle were her legacy. As stars filled the sky, Eliza stood, rifle in hand, badge gleaming. A distant coyote howled, a reminder of the wild. She smiled, unafraid. Redstone slept soundly because of her. She'd tamed the Wild West, not with fear, but with courage and a steady aim. Eliza Kane, deputy, protector, legend, walked into the night, ready for whatever the frontier brought next. Her story would live on.